Welcome to Storytime with Fear. Tonight's tale will make your skin crawl. Brace yourself, because this story will keep you up all night. The shadows beneath my bed. The night was stormy. The kind where it feels like the world itself is knocking on the windows while the rain seems to fall in an eerie beat. Emma laid in bed with the thick blankets drawn close about her, but even though it was warm, a shiver was still slipping down her back. Outside, the storm was raging, its wrath expanding the quiet in her room. The darkness had always affected her. When she was younger, she would frequently look beneath her bed, almost expecting something to crawl out of the shadows. However, everything felt different tonight. The shadows felt alive tonight, with the shadowy area beneath the bed looming like a scary emptiness. Emma's eyes darted uneasily toward the corner of her room. Her small movements caused a creaking sound in the bed that seemed much louder than it should have been. In the hopes that whatever was beneath her bed would remain there, she squeezed her eyes shut and hoped it was just the wind. However, the sound returned, a faint, nearly undetectable scrape. Then a heavier, deeper sound, something moving under the mattress. Her heart began to race. She experienced a moment of shock. She tried to quiet the mounting anxiety by telling herself that it was just the house settling. However, the sounds had a disturbingly intentional tone. The wind wasn't the cause. The house wasn't the cause. There was someone under her bed. With the exception of the rain beating steadily against the window, the room was overly quiet. Emma's breath caught as she strained to hear if there was any further movement. Her pulse pounding in her ears, she froze as the bed creaked once more, louder this time. When she realized the sound was getting closer, a shiver went up her spine. Slowly, something or someone was making its way over to the mattress's edge. It was nearly tangible to her. The darkness, thickness, and relentlessness of the shadows beneath the bed felt real now. Her mind was racing. It might be an animal, she thought anxiously. Then she recalled the moment she had taken control over the house. Under the floors, no traces of rodents or other living things had been found. The silence in the house had been too silent. One more creak. With possibilities racing through her head, Emma's throat became dry. What might it be? The wind? A dream? No, it felt too real. Under the bed, the shadows seemed to grow longer and reach out for her like hands that were invisible. In a hurry, she flung off the blankets and swung her legs over the side of the bed so her feet were barely above the floor. Her fingers were shaking as she reached for the lamp next to her and turned the switch on. Even though the shadows were fading a little as the light filled the room, there was still something black and moving beneath the bed. Emma might have believed she saw a pair of glinting eyes staring back at her, eyes that sparkled with cruelty and greed. As her sight met with the shadow beneath the bed in the fleeting moment of clarity, her throat tightened each breath. Despite her instincts screaming her to run, she was unable to move and retreated away, her heart beating against her ribs. The shadows beneath the bed started to move, as if they were living beings of their own, around the mattress's edges, as if they were looking for something or someone. Then she heard a whisper, a voice, gentle and warm, yet icy in its delivery, coming from the shadows. Come closer. Her blood froze. She wanted to scream, but couldn't bring herself to do so. The murmurs increased in volume and intensity, calling for her to approach. It was no longer a question, it was an order. Like something calling to her from another realm beneath her bed, the shadows pulsed in time with her own breathing. Against her better judgment, she stood up and moved closer to the bed's edge. Like an open mouth, the blackness underneath it yelled for her. Every stride was like being pulled, an overwhelming force. I should have left this house when I had the chance, she thought as she crouched down and groped for the floor, her fingers shaking. However, it was now too late. There was a difficult pull beneath her, and the shadows were closer than before. She must be aware of what lurked there. As soon as her fingers touched the chilly floor, the bed began to move wildly. Like something attempting to get out, the mattress jerked higher. It seemed as though the darkness beneath her bed had been waiting for this very moment. A hand with long, clawed fingers suddenly emerged from the shadows and grabbed her wrist. Emma let out a primal, scared scream that echoed around the room, but the howling wind drowned it out. When she attempted to break free, the hold became more firm and pulled her in the direction of the chasm. She pulled herself free with all her strength, her legs completely on the ground now, her heart pounding as if it were about to explode. Her bed, was no longer the comforting, secure place it had been when she staggered back. It had turned into a starting point for something much worse. Below, the shadows were living, and they were ravenous. Her eyes were fixed on the shifting shadows as she retreated, her boots slipping on the slippery floor. She reached for the door, but it locked her in place as it slammed shut with a loud bang. As though to taunt her, the bed creaked again, louder this time. Then, in the silence, the whispers returned, colder than before. You can't escape. You never were meant to. And just like that, the shadows crept out from beneath her bed, enveloping the room, swallowing everything in their path. The rain outside poured down harder than ever, but the world beyond Emma's room no longer existed. All that remained was the darkness and the hungry shadows that waited beneath her bed. As the storm raged on, no one knew where Emma had gone. No one would ever know. The house was left in silence, the shadows beneath her bed, once again patiently waiting for their next victim.